Hello students, my name is Amit and this is 10th lecture of business management. In the earlier lecture, we have seen the process of forecasting steps involved in it, meaning and definitions of forecasting. Now we will look at the techniques of forecasting. The various techniques for forecasting may be classified into two broad categories, that is quantitative and qualitative. In the quantitative techniques, the use of various statistical tools for data to predict future events. These include time series analysis, regression analysis, extrapolation, and econometric models. Whereas qualitative techniques employ human judgment to predict the future. It includes business barometers, Delphi technique, panel consensus, morphological research, and relevance tree. These are the main qualitative techniques. Now we will go to it one by one. Let us first look at the quantitative techniques. The first one is time series analysis. A time series is a sequence of data points measured typically at successive points in time spaced at uniform time intervals. Now, what type of data they look at is at regular time intervals. So let's say after every quarter, after every month, after every 15 days, after every 7 days, after every year, after every 10 year, the data collection happens and that data is considered for the further analysis. So under this method, a historical series of data is decomposed into various components. So let's say if we look at India's population. Now population census is done after every 10 years. Now what happens is the population census that happens after every 10 years, it is done on the basis of caste, it is done on the basis of religion, and then on that basis the government gets concrete data for analysis. They compare the data of different decades, that as it is happening every 10 years, they compare the data so collected after every 10 years with the earlier data, and then they look at the trends. So now let's say in 1980 when they did the census, in 1980 the trend was that there were a lot of aged people and less of younger people. In 1990s the trend changed, younger people increased whereas the old age people got decreased. Then the kids were higher, then the for a particular caste or for a particular religion the percentage of population was, let's say, 3%. Now in after 10 years it has reduced to 1%. That means uh, the people from that religion, that religion is not increasing in size. So such type of analysis is done of the data, and then on that basis the decisions are taken by the government. Then some cyclical variations are also considered in this analysis. Now let's say this COVID-19 pandemic, we will take it as example. Because of this COVID, the education system fell apart, the people working in the companies fell apart, the entire chain of operations of the government fell apart. Only the hospitals were running, the small businessmen, they fell apart. So we have seen losses every year, everywhere. Now while analyzing the overall 10 years GDP or 10 years economy, then this pandemic comes up as a very good example, which we can say as either seasonal or cyclical variation. So it happened, the losses are there because of this situation which is not in control of anyone. So such type of exceptions are considered, and after adjusting the data for such type of situations, the data finally arrived at it's compared as against the data for previous year, previous quarter, previous decade, previous millennium and all. When the various components of a time series are separated, the trend of the variable under study, for example demand, can be known. So after understanding, let's say now the government wants to understand the per capita income. So per capita means for one person in the entire population, what is the income of that person. So per capita income for calculation, it's during the pandemic of COVID-19, the per capita income has gone down. But when the government will consider it for corrections or checking, they will remove the pandemic part from the data, and then they will consider the data for analysis so as to come at some conclusion. Then the second method is extrapolation. Extrapolation means it is based on time series, but it does not isolate the effects of various types of changes. It is assumed that there is a constant and stable pattern of movements in the data. On the basis of past behavior of data, a trend curve is established. This method is used to forecast industry growth, national income, population, etc. So let's say if every year the population is increasing by, let's say, 2%. That's a lot, but I'm just saying it. Let's suppose the population is increasing 2%, but in some years, in recent 2 to 3 years, if the population has not increased by 2%, it got increased by only 1%. But just because the historical data says so, that is 2%, for doing the analysis, quantitative analysis, they will assume that 2% is the ratio. And even if the assessment is that 1% has been achieved, they will still consider it as 2%. Now regression analysis. Regression analysis attempts to find out the relative movements of two or more interrelated series. It is used to estimate the changes in one variable as a result of the specified changes in other variable. So with this regression analysis, the dependency of one character or one point or one thing on another thing or on other point is analyzed. So let's say if the example that I can give you is let's say in a school, in a government school, there is a RTI Act. Because of that, the schools are supposed to give admission to the people who 25% admissions are reserved for RTI. Now, if no one is taking admission under RTI, let's say for the first year the seats were 100 in one school. Now for RTI only, so 25% is 100. Now if there are 100 seats and first year all 100 seats were filled. Second year, in the second year, if the seats were full 80% out of 100. Third year the seats were 100 but school admissions went down to 50. So this is a trend. Now on this basis, this is a trend analysis. On this basis, government may come to a conclusion that under the RTI, no one is, or the number of people who want to get admission in the schools under RTI has reduced. That means now people feel that the RTI is not required anymore. This is just an example, so take it as example only. Now if they consider that, then they might remove that rule. So the regression analysis talks about the decision making criteria of the government, the actual benefit that is getting that the respective community, respective caste is getting from that. If the caste is not availing that benefit, it's the decision making dependency on that particular variable will always be there. So government may change their decision. So that's one of the examples I'm sharing. It's not that RTI admissions are getting slower or lower. I was just giving one example. Now third is econometric models. In the econometric models, mathematical models are used to express in quantitative terms the interrelationship among different variables. These models take the form of a set of simultaneous equations. A large number of equations may have to be formed to arrive at one econometric model because the variables affecting a business phenomenon are several. So let's say for government policies, we consider a variable as X. For local government, we consider the body as consider the variable as Y. For let's say for facility structure, we consider it as local administrative things. We consider the variable as Z. So by allotting different variables to the different situations, different issues, we come to a conclusion that okay, this is the econometric model. This is the equation that we have, that if we have certain problem, that problem gets a variable for analysis, and then after the analysis its value is considered, and then on that basis the decision making process happens. Then input output analysis. In this method, input requirement or output is estimated on the basis of the known relationship between input and output. This technique is based on the well-established interrelationships between different sectors of the economy. Now, let's say this year in COVID-19, the school started online. Now the schools normally ask students or parents of the students to buy a new uniform from a particular shop or from the school itself. Now the trend was that the input-output analysis, if I say, as they knew that the school is not going to get started very early, so students will not have to come to school. So automatically it reduced the demand of the uniform dresses, right? So now schools did not order it. So that's the interrelationship between these two parameters, that something is happening or something is not happening, because of which there is a change in the variable, right? Business barometers. These are the index numbers used to predict the directions in which the economy is moving. The assumption here is that past pattern trend is repeat themselves in the future. Now, what it says is there is a particular direction in which the index numbers move, or the economy move in that direction. So certain index numbers are allotted to each variable. Now the assumption is that it keeps repeating itself after some years. So let's say parameter 1 had appeared in 1970. Parameter 1 again appeared in 1980. Parameter 1 again appeared in 1990. So they assume that the parameter 1 is going to appear again in 2000. They assume that the parameter will appear in again 2010. It will again appear in 2020. It will again appear in 2030. So they have decided some parameters. They have some parameters set which enables the management to take decisions effectively. Historical analogy. Under this method, forecast is based on some analogical conditions elsewhere in the past. According to Rostow, an economy passes through certain stages in its development. Therefore, the economic situation of a country can be forecasted by making comparisons with another country which has already gone through that stage. Now, let's say India is a developing nation, whereas let's compare ourselves with US. US is a developed country and the best economy in the world as of now. Now, what India will do is, as of now, our, let's say, growth rate is 7%. GDP is 7%. Now, India will look at when US had 7% growth rate. At that time, what was the economic situation of the United States when they were developing country and were having 7% GDP? Now, they will look at what trend was there during that period in US what all businesses were running good, were not running good in there. They will look at the cultural differences. They will compare such things with our country, and then they will take some decisions to improve on the economic conditions of our country. So that's is like some other country has already experienced it, so we take the benefit from their experience, we learn from their mistakes, we learn from their benefits, and then we implement such things accordingly in our country to grow further. Then we will move to the qualitative analysis. First one is morphological analysis. Morphological analysis method is used mainly to forecast technological changes. This method breaks down a system, product or process into its essential sub-concepts, each concept representing a dimension in a multi-dimensional matrix. That's a big thing. So it talks about whatever technological changes are happening and what all technological changes would be there in future. So as it's a forecasting, right? So I may say I would be driving a car and I would require only 10 milliliter of petrol to go 100 kilometers. That could be future, we don't know, but that's the assumption I have. So that is a technological change I'm expecting in future, let's say after 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years down the line. But at least I'm expecting that change. Now, once you expect such changes which are actually depending upon some facts that are already there, then what we do is, now as I said that I want to drive a car 100 kilometers in 10 milliliter of petrol. Now I will have to split it. What would be the key factor which will increase the mileage of my car, mileage of my bike? So air and petrol, when they burst, the petrol burst together with the air, that proportion is going to be important for me. Now I will jot down all these points and then I'll make it as a sub parts of entire concept, and then I will study that accordingly, so as to achieve that ultimate futuristic goal. Then panel consensus method. In this method, a panel of experts in the area is prepared. The opinions of these experts are combined and averaged. The panel of experts sits together in a room and discuss an event until a consensus emerges. However, due to the group dynamics, one person with a strong personality can have an enormous effect on the forecast. Now, let's say our finance minister, they share the budget, right? Finance minister is the one who reads out the budget in the parliament, but she is not the one who is actually preparing the entire budget on her own. There is a huge team behind that. It's a team effort. So people come together, they discuss. So the way you discuss in the groups, the group discussions that happen. So they discuss in the group, they arrive at a conclusion, they come together as an expert, they discuss, they come to a conclusion, and then they share it. That's the panel consensus method. Then there is a Delphi technique. In this method, a group of experts make forecast without meeting face to face. Participants are typically 5-10 experts who make the forecast. Staff personnel assist by preparing, distributing, collecting and summarizing a series of questionnaires and survey results. After 3 or 4 passes through this process, a consensus forecast typically emerges. So these are 5-10 different people who don't even meet at all. They do their forecasting on their own, on the basis of the data that they get from the employees of the organization, either through surveys or something like the people who do PhD. They do the questionnaire thing, they do the survey of the people, and after that survey they form some of their opinions. Now each person in that group does it individually on its own. Then they come together and then they discuss their outcomes. And after those outcomes are discussed, then a combined one strategy gets developed or a combined one forecast gets developed, which is then communicated to the management, and then the management takes some decisions. Then the last important point is simulation. In the simulation, a dynamic model which incorporates all the relevant variables is designed and programmed. This model is supposed to incorporate all the internal and external important variables. The model is then used to test the different alternatives, such as what happens if the price is reduced by so much or if an advertisement campaign is started. So simulation is nothing but, let me give you one example. Okay, some of you might already have a driving license, okay, car driving license. You might have undergone some classes, you might have gone to some motor driving school. There, what do? A virtual car. They ask you to drive that virtual car. They explain you everything about the car. Then they make you use the steering. Then they make you use the brakes. They make you use the gears. Right? That is simulation. So, how the things are going to happen? They have the exact model prepared for that, and in that situation, if something goes wrong, what are we going to do? So let's say while you are driving virtually in that simulation, if you are not applying brakes, what is going to happen? You are going to bump on something. Okay, if you speed up, if you break the signal, what will happen? If you don't apply clutch while putting the car in gear, what is going to happen? So what are we going to do in that case? Such things are explained by that person to you when you go through that entire process of simulation. That's the technique that is used by the management for forecasting. So entire model is set up, and in that model, what are the things that are going to happen? What are the bad things what are the worst things that we can imagine? Then arrive at some solution to overcome such challenges and then take the decision. So when the situation comes, management already has discussed about it. Management already is having some solution to it. So they don't panic. So the things don't get stopped. Those go on continuing. So with this, I think we should stop here, and I will continue this planning versus forecasting in the next chapter, next lecture. Thank you.